some machines don't arrive on roads. They arrive on reputations that reshape silence itself. Welcome to Elite Auto Reviews. And today, what feels like imagination parked in reality takes center stage. Sculpted proportions stretch like a moving estate, where every surface feels carved to be noticed without shouting. Inside, the cabin feels less like transport and more like a private lounge that learned how to move. It responds with a calm authority, the kind that never rushes yet always feels a step ahead of expectation. Technology here behaves like a quiet assistant, reading moments rather than announcing features in loud detail. Safety works in the background, almost invisible, like an instinct that protects before you even notice risk. In real life, it adapts effortlessly to city pressure and long highway stretches, without ever breaking its composure. But the real story begins when you stop looking at it as a vehicle and start treating it like a statement. Compared to the usual ultra-luxury SUVs, this one leans more into presence than performance bragging rights. This is built for someone who values arriving with quiet authority, not attention-seeking noise. And it's not for those chasing raw sportiness. One detail that stands out is how even the smallest touchpoints feel intentionally heavy, like they were designed to be remembered. I found myself noticing how the silence inside becomes almost physical, as if the outside world forgot to interrupt. But here's where the experience shifts in a way most expect, yet few actually feel behind the wheel. The more time you spend with it, the more it feels less engineered and more composed, like a living space. Others in this class chase aggressive styling, but here restraint becomes the loudest form of confidence. And when it finally stands still, it doesn't feel parked. It feels paused mid-story, waiting for its next chapter. Some creations don't demand admiration. They naturally collect it wherever they exist, without needing permission. It carries a road presence that doesn't rely on sharp aggression, but on sheer, undeniable scale and precision in its stance. Even standing still, it draws attention in a way that feels more like gravity than design. The materials inside seem chosen not just for luxury, but for the emotional response they create under touch. Seating wraps you in a way that makes long journeys feel less like distance and more like transition. Acceleration feels less like force and more like an effortless surge that builds confidence rather than shock. Every system operates in harmony, responding quietly to intention rather than demanding interaction. It feels like the vehicle anticipates hesitation and corrects it before it becomes a thought. In crowded streets, it moves with unexpected patience, never forcing its presence where it doesn't belong. Spending time with it reveals layers that don't show up in quick impressions or surface-level judgment. There is a certain calm confidence in how it carries weight, without ever appearing burdened by it. It feels designed for people who have already experienced noise and now prefer clarity over chaos. While some rivals emphasize drama through design, this one speaks through understatement and controlled presence. And that's exactly what makes it linger in memory long after you stop thinking about specifications. Because the most powerful machines are not always the loudest ones, they are the ones that feel inevitable. At night, the cabin lighting feels like a carefully composed atmosphere rather than simple illumination. You don't drive it in the traditional sense. You experience time passing differently inside it. Every angle appears intentional, as if wind itself was considered during its creation. It doesn't try to impress everyone, yet it ends up being remembered by almost everyone. Whether arriving at a quiet estate or leaving a busy district, it adjusts its mood seamlessly. Owning something like this changes how you perceive movement, space, and even silence itself. And perhaps that is the real luxury here, not what is added, but what is removed. It leaves behind everything unnecessary and keeps only what feels meaningful in motion and stillness alike. It feels less like engineering and more like a philosophy expressed through metal and motion. Even when unseen, it carries a sense of authority that quietly fills the space around it. There is no urgency in its character, only a controlled, deliberate sense of arrival. That feeling stays with you longer than any specification ever could. And in a world full of loud statements, this one whispers, and still gets heard. It is not just about arriving somewhere. It is about redefining what arrival even means. It doesn't shout for attention, yet attention naturally follows wherever it exists. That is the kind of presence that cannot be manufactured easily. You don't easily forget something that feels this composed and intentional. It leaves an impression not through intensity, but through consistency. And that consistency is what turns design into emotion over time. Some vehicles are built to be seen. This one feels built to be remembered. It stands in a category where silence itself becomes a form of luxury. And that quietness is what makes its presence feel so complete. Nothing about it feels accidental. Everything feels deliberately composed for impact. Even after the moment passes, the impression it leaves continues to echo, shaping how you look at luxury, presence, and the quiet power of restraint in modern automotive design itself, with time long after it. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.